Have you made an error today? I have. We make lots of errors. We make errors every day. And psychologists like me are interested in errors and understanding where they come from. The psychologist James Reason asked people to keep diaries of their errors. And my favorite example from his work was a woman who was rushing out to work in the morning, a very good way to make errors, rushing. And she had her earrings in one hand, and she had the dog biscuits in the other, and she fed the dog, and the next thing she is at the mirror trying to attach 2 dog biscuits to her ears. Not very good for the earrings, not great for the dog, but not a major disaster. But we can make errors at work. Yet we have skills, kind of hidden skills, to help us avoid error and catch error. These are the skills I'm going to talk to you about, and I'd like you to think about maybe you have some of these skills in your job. And because I don't know what your job is, let me take an example from driving. So you may have been driving here on this snowy morning, an unfamiliar area. What are you doing? You're driving, operating the car, but you're also gathering information, watching the traffic, looking at the road surface. Maybe you're thinking, where do I make a turning in a few minutes ahead? You may be asking your passenger to help you navigate. You may be asking your children to be quiet because you're aware they're beginning to distract you. And what you're using here are thinking skills and social skills that are not part of the technical driving skills, but they're skills that help us work efficiently, and they're very good skills for catching error. And these skills are called non-technical skills. So if we take those non-technical skills and ask, well, where did these skills come from? This is where they came from. Where they were first identified was the world of aviation. And from the big aviation accidents, the ones that really had no technical causes. This is a picture of Tenerife. There were a number of accidents in the 1970s and the 1980s that really puzzled investigators because they were technically competent crew, there were no main technical problems with the aircraft, and still we had these kinds of crashes. The jumbo jets at Tenerife that collided, something to do with communication. The Florida crew became distracted by a little problem and failed to notice they had a great big problem and flew into the ground. In England, we had a flight with a plane with one engine on fire, and accidentally the pilots turned off the other engine, and now we have no engines, and so the plane crashes. So these were very puzzling to the investigators. Why were we having these kinds of accidents? And how could we find out where they were coming from? Because they were just being called pilot error. And here's the answer. The answer was hidden in the Cockpit voice recorder, in the black box. This is a black box. You can see it's orange, very nice Dutch color, orange, but this is so we can find the black box. And in there's the recorder. And when they listened to the recordings, they found all kinds of behavior patterns that were contributing to error or were meaning the errors weren't getting caught. So there were things to do with the way the pilots worked together, things to do with decision-making, things to do with poor leadership, things to do with communication, all in the voice recordings. And so they realized that there were these other skills that pilots needed, and they called these non-technical skills. And at this point, they began to get the aviation psychologists to work in the simulators to start really understanding what these behaviors were that they were going to have to bring into the pilots' training. One of these was the situation where co-pilots, as in Tenerife, did not speak up very forcefully to the captain when they thought there might be a problem with the flight. And they could hear this on the voice recording. They set up a simulation and they asked the captains to feign incapacity, take very bad decisions. And they were watching the behavior of the co-pilots. And they were alarmed by the findings because what they saw was that the co-pilots were taking a long time to challenge the captain, even if they challenged them at all, even when they were clearly concerned that something was going wrong. And this was due to the status hierarchy, the authority gradient, a more senior person and the more junior person, cautious and careful about speaking up. One of the psychologists said at the time, co-pilots would rather die than challenge a captain. This is not a situation that could continue, so they began to bring in special training across the set of these skills, including assertiveness for pilots. A bit surprising if you've ever seen pilots to think that they need assertiveness training, and not enough to train the co-pilots to be assertive. You have to train the captains to listen to the co-pilot when the co-pilot is trying to speak up. So this was a whole new way of thinking, a whole new kind of training that they brought into aviation to train these non-technical skills. These are the main categories, and underneath these are all these behaviors about not listening, not speaking up, not working well together. And the special kind of training they brought in aviation is called crew resource management. And you may be aware that pilots, by law, in each country have to have this crew resource management training. They have it at the start and they have it every year. And now they have their skills, their non-technical skills assessed as well as their technical skills. And I worked on a European project with some Dutch pilots developing a system for rating pilots' non-technical skills. That's my interest in this particular area. But it's not just pilots who need this skill. There are other high-risk work environments, this being one of them. Healthcare. I also work a bit on patient safety. And there have been some big accidents where patients have died because of error. In one case, in 2005, a woman called Elaine Bromley went into hospital for a minor procedure, mid-30s, mother of 2 small children. Anaesthetists put her to sleep, tried to make the intubation, but have a big problem getting the tube down. And they struggle to try and do this, and they start to lose track of time. And all the time, her oxygen levels are too low for her brain. The nurses, 2 nurses, become concerned, try to intervene, and are waved away by the doctors who continue to focus on their task. Eventually, they give up. She is sent to the recovery room. In fact, she never recovers, and her husband, 10 days later, has to switch off her life support machine. Why I'm telling you this story is because Martin Bromley, her husband, is a pilot. He's an airline captain. And he asked for an independent report into his wife's death. And when he did this, the report came back, and it was full of failures in non-technical skills. Losing track of the situation, losing track of the time, not listening to people who are trying to tell you there's a problem, not working together as a team, bad decisions. And so he has been working ever since to try and bring this non-technical skills training into healthcare, because the doctors and nurses have been getting no training of this kind, even though they work in a high-risk environment. And our work in Scotland has been working between psychologists, surgeons, anaesthetists, and nurses to design systems and design training for bringing in non-technical skills that they can use for training in the healthcare environment, particularly in the operating room, which is quite high risk at times. And we now see other industries starting to bring in these non-technical skills. The rail industry, the shipping industry, the mining industry, because they recognize this is a missing piece that they need to improve safety and efficiency. So what I'm asking you is to think about for your job. Maybe there's some non-technical skills required there that have never really been identified. The best people have always used them, but they're not documented anywhere. The trainees find these difficult and slow to learn. And to finish with, to give you an example, because I said at the beginning, error is very common. I'd like to share with you an error I made in healthcare. I was working in a hospital when I was a student. I was an assistant in a geriatric ward with elderly patients. And my first day at work, a nurse came up to me and gave me a tray. And on the tray were 20 little pots, 20 little containers. And in each container was a pair of artificial teeth, false teeth, belonging to the patients in the ward. And they said to me, "Can you clean these teeth?" I thought, this is a pretty horrible job to be cleaning other people's dirty teeth. So I take them to the sink and I think, how could I do this efficiently? So I fill the sink with water and I tipped all the pots of teeth into the sink. And I pick up the first pair, quite pleased with myself because I like this efficiency. I'm brushing the first teeth and I go to replace them and I look and there's no name on the teeth. The names are on the pots. So now I have a sink with 20 pairs of teeth and we don't know who the teeth belong to. This is clearly not a major problem. It was a little bit uncomfortable in the ward. There were some very strange smiles in the ward for a day or two until the teeth were reunited with the correct owners. The nurses were not pleased with me. It really was the end of my nursing career rather than the beginning of it. And it was a failure in situation awareness, not thinking ahead of the implications of the action I was taking, making a very bad decision. Probably also not listening to any instructions that I had been given. So not a major failure, not a disastrous, dangerous error, but still an error, the typical kind of thing that happens every day in everybody's life and in everybody's work. So what I think is an idea worth spreading is that we look at the non-technical skills, not just for the high-risk jobs, but for lots of jobs, because I think understanding better these hidden skills, these cognitive skills, these social skills can help to improve efficiency, help to reduce error, and maybe keep things a little bit safer. Thank you very much.